OP demands a divorce from her abusive conservative husband.
I, 37-year-old female, have been married to my husband, Asher, 40-year-old male, for 15 years. We have different political beliefs. I am liberal and a staunch supporter of the Democratic Party, while my husband is a conservative Republican and a local official in the Republican Party. He is a strong supporter of Donald Trump. You might be thinking that if we are so far apart, how and why did we marry? Basically, we belong to Jewish families, where arranged marriage is common, and our marriage is also a marriage of convenience. We got married just 6 months after our families first met. Another factor is that my husband didn't reveal his political beliefs before or at the time of our wedding. So we seemed to be a perfect couple at that time. After our wedding, we slowly came to know about one another's political beliefs, but we didn't have much of a problem with our political views because we didn't not bring our political beliefs home. However, as time passed, our contrasting political views began to create problems for us, and now I believe our marriage cannot work anymore. So last week, I asked my husband for a divorce. I can say that all this seriously started when we had our first son, Levi, now 22-year-old male, after 3 years of marriage. At his first birthday party, my husband expressed his desire to raise him according to American values, traditional family structures, gender roles, national patriotism, and blah blah blah. I strongly disagreed with him and said that I don't want my son to be an ancient American in this modern era. Instead, I suggested that we should teach our son the lesson of equality among all Americans, regardless of race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and religion. I believe that our son should be an epitome of individual liberty. This difference of opinion soon turned into a heated argument, and my husband left the party, almost spoiling the first birthday of our son, and returned home late at night. We didn't talk to each other for a week, and our relationship normalized only when our families intervened and made us promise that we would not discuss our political differences at home. Though it was difficult, we agreed because we wanted to make our marriage work. My husband didn't talk much about anything controversial for some time. As old habits die hard, he confronted me when we were deciding to send our son to school. He sent Levi to a school of his choice, and after that, he tried his best to teach him the American values. He did the same for our other 2 children. After high school, our son joined Liberty University. I was not happy with his decision and the life path he had chosen, taking advice from his father.
Fast forward to 2020. Our son moved out and started living with his friend, Adam, now 23-year-old male. Whenever he came home, Adam was always with him. Seeing their bond, I began to doubt their relationship. When I asked my son why he was so close to Adam, and if he didn't have other friends, he was hesitant at first. However, he eventually told me that Adam was not just his friend, but his boyfriend. I was surprised, perhaps even happy, to learn that my son was not conservative like my husband. However, my son told me not to reveal this to my husband because he was afraid of his reaction. I agreed. In 2021, when supporters of the Republican Party attacked the White House, I lamented their actions, which led to an argument with my husband. During the fight, I accused him of boasting as a conservative while his own son was gay. He was shocked to learn about his son's orientation. After this revelation, he fell silent. Later that evening, he called our son and asked him to visit home, but he didn't disclose the reason for the invitation. In the evening, Levi came home with his boyfriend. My husband reacted violently and started physically assaulting our son. My son's boyfriend and I intervened to stop the abuse, threatening to involve the police if the violence continued and file a suit of domestic violence against him. Faced with the prospect of legal action, my husband ceased the assault, but demanded that Levi's boyfriend leave our house immediately. Levi's boyfriend, who was worried about his safety after witnessing the physical abuse, left the home promptly. Our son, red-faced, sat in the corner, and our daughter looked on disapprovingly. After some time, my husband took Levi with him in his car, stating they would return home late. I was worried that my husband might harm my son, so I called the police and explained the situation. I informed them about the violence at home, and that my husband had taken our son out of the home without informing us of their whereabouts. I expressed concerns that he might do something unpleasant to him. The police tried to search for them but failed. Not only this, I wrote a long post on social media explaining my husband's views, particularly his opinion about gays. I also told the story of my husband beating our son and said it is unfortunate that my husband hates our son for who he is. I cursed my husband, accusing him of being a bigot. When I posted my opinion, I received an overwhelming response from social media. People started criticizing my husband for his views and his actions towards gays and showed support for my son. I hoped that the police would arrest him soon and teach him a lesson. However, I was shocked when my son and husband came home together like friends. It seemed that nothing had happened between them, and my son seemed to be absolutely normal. I didn't know how my husband normalized him.
When my husband returned with our son, he confronted me again, accusing me of creating a rift between father and son and wanting people to hate him. I didn't care much about my husband's opinions of me, but it hurt me when my son blamed me for spoiling his relationship with his father. I explained to him that it was his father who had beaten him a few hours ago, and I had intervened to stop it. In response, my son claimed that I had provoked his father's reaction and insisted that it was a matter between them, and I had no right to interfere in their personal affairs. Feeling very disappointed, I went to my sister's home and shared the whole story with her. I expressed that I could not continue being the wife of a man who lacked compassion, equality, and respect for individual freedom. I confided in her that I wanted to divorce my husband, especially since he had turned our son against me, which was the most painful part of it all. The following day, I confronted my husband and demanded a divorce. He responded by stating that he also had no interest in staying with me and threatened legal action. Despite my request for a divorce, I am uncertain about the righteousness of my decision as our family is now divided, and I sometimes feel responsible for the rift.
OP is not an AH, and her demand is justified. It seems to be the healthiest solution given the circumstances. It is not all about political beliefs, but the demand for divorce stems from fundamental differences in values, beliefs, and parenting styles, and on top of it, due to OP's husband's intolerance and violent behavior. For his behavior, OP's husband is a big AH. So, I would give OP's husband 3 out of 5, and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story where OP refuses to replace a plastic lawn chair that she accidentally broke at her husband's grandparents' house while rushing to save his child from falling into the pool.
I, 26-year-old female, and my husband, James, 27-year-old male, along with our 2 young children, Elijah and Henry, 1 and 3, frequently go out to my husband's grandparents' property. It is a 40-acre wooded property, a kind of farmhouse with a pond at its center. The property is open for family use, and most family members visit the property and treat it as a family park. The property also features a gazebo with all kinds of stuff for use by anyone, such as the infamous plastic lawn chairs, to sit around the fire.
3 weeks ago, we visited the property with our children. At noon, we were sitting at the gazebo, with my husband looking after Elijah and me taking care of Henry. I was sitting on a chair in the gazebo and talking to my cousin Mary a few feet away from the pond, unaware that my husband had stepped away to throw something away and was no longer watching Elijah. I was engrossed in conversation with my cousin, and when I turned towards the pond, I saw Elijah getting close to the water's edge. Before I could react, he tripped and fell into the pond. I immediately yelled, "Child in the pond," and sprang into action, pushing my cousin out of the way and rushing towards the pond to save my son from drowning. Thankfully, he is okay because he was in the water for less than 5 seconds. As I got up from the chair, it fell to the ground, breaking up by the left shoulder. My husband has been very apologetic about that, and still beating himself up for not telling me I needed to watch both kids, and not just Henry, whom I was gently pushing on a porch swing while talking to my cousin.
Before we left, we always stopped by if grandparents were home to chat for a bit. This time, when we reached their home, we found out that Grandma was not there. James's younger uncle had taken her to the hospital. Grandma is diabetic, and Grandpa told us that the uncle had taken her to the hospital after she had an episode of hypoglycemia. We apologized for not knowing about it, and explained that we turn off our phone whenever we are spending time together. We assured Grandpa that we would visit Grandma the same day. Then, we told Grandpa what happened to our child and how the chair broke. Grandpa said it was all right and expressed his relief that our child was okay. He also thanked us for informing him so he could get the chair repaired.
After leaving our home, we went to the hospital to see Grandma, who was admitted because her sugar level had fallen below 50 milligrams per DL. However, she is now okay and has normal sugar levels. The doctor has advised us to continuously monitor her food. Grandma does not like my husband and me, and usually treats us like outsiders. I don't know why. However, Grandpa is a kind-hearted person and treats all family members equally. After visiting Grandma in the hospital, we stopped at the store before heading home and bought a replacement chair for the one that I had mistakenly broken at my grandparents' property. My husband said that I was being petty and that there was no need to buy a new chair. I know I was probably being petty, but I believe that a line needs to be drawn, and we must not be a burden on someone else.
This weekend, we visited our grandparents' property, our family park again. I didn't bring the chair that I had bought as a replacement. Frankly, I just forgot it. When we arrived, we noticed that the chair had been fixed with some Gorilla Tape, so we didn't think much about it. However, I realized I had forgotten to bring the replacement chair. We enjoyed our day with our children, family members, and some friends. Not only family members, but close friends also visit their farm. As usual, on our way back home, we stopped by to visit our grandparents. When we arrived at their home, Grandpa was not there, and Grandma answered the door when we rang the bell. I wanted to ask how she was feeling, but before I could say anything, she mentioned that we needed to replace the chair we broke 2 weeks ago. My husband sternly told her that we don't need to replace anything because it was his grandpa's property. Before I could say anything, she closed the door in our face, saying, "Come to me only after replacing the chair." At first, I personally thought it was not a big deal, and we should have offered to replace it when we had already told our grandparents it got broken. So, I asked my husband why he was so upset, and why he didn't tell her we already have a replacement. We just forgot it. He said many people over the years have broken chairs and other such things at the farmhouse, but she neither asked anyone to replace the item, nor did anyone offer to replace it. Instead, our grandparents always threw the broken items away right away, and always told others, like Grandpa told us initially, "Don't worry about it."
Her attitude, and the fact this is commonplace for my husband, to be expected to act differently from the rest of his family, has me thinking we should instead return the chair, and just start bringing our own out there from now on. So, 𝐒𝐓𝐻𝐿 for refusing to replace the chair over her attitude? OP is not an AH because she had already bought a replacement chair, showing responsibility, even though the grandparents initially dismissed it as not a big deal. However, Grandma's insistence on replacing it doesn't seem to be fair. Grandma is being unreasonable here. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.